So, a bunch of my longtime viewers have been asking for my opinions on political things lately, and having dropped them in very long conversations on the Breakfast Club, I haven't been feeling like making a video. But last night was the Democratic National Convention for 2020, sans an audience, because it was all, pre-recorded, plus like live people who were completely alone in whatever studio they were in. No audience because of the pandemic, and it sucked. Sucks being a delegate for, many elections in a row, and then finding out that pretty much this year there was no path for delegates to try to make it to the DNC. 1 year I'm going to make it. 1 year. I've done everything I can at the state level as far as being a delegate, and I'd like to go to the national level 1 year, but whatever. There's my dog trying to kill the Amazon delivery drivers again. Anyways, the DNC. What can I say about it? It was a nice show, I guess, for night one. But for me as a delegate, it lacked some of the process of a regular convention, And I know that other people are not going to have this takeaway from it, but for me, seeing how candidates in the past, especially candidates like Ron Paul and Bernie Sanders, have been screwed out of their foothold in their respective parties by, kind of shady means in the past couple decades. I don't like seeing that the convention has turned into just a puff piece for the platform, rather than an actual place where, delegates are counted and people push for certain platform pieces that maybe wouldn't have been considered without, And so when we get to me talking about Bernie Sanders later, I'm sure I'll bring this up. But anyways, so Eva Longoria was hosting, very beautiful Latina, and that's her credentials as far as hosting, I guess. But the star-studded call to order, ensued after she opened the show, and there were some regular Joes in the mix, not just people from Hollywood, but I do get this overall impression that it's harder for the Republicans to come up with bona fide stars. There's only so many times you can listen to a surprise concert from Kid Rock. Anyways, then they went on and had the Star Spangled Banner, which would be at a normal convention, and instead they had it with kids from, it looked like all 50 states. I don't know. There was a lot of them. There was an invocation prayer from Reverend Gabriel Salguero, and he said that Jesus is matchless at the end. And just the word matchless, I hadn't heard it used in that respect before, so I was thinking about matches and Matchbox cars and Matchbox 20, and then I was like, oh no, hold on. There's no equal to him. Got it. Okay. Yeah. It was a new one for me to hear that sort of thing being said about Jesus. People say a lot of things about Jesus, Then they had this segment with Scott the businessman, right? And he's talking about how COVID has hurt his business, which I feel is a smart move for the Democrats to talk about how President Trump's handling of the pandemic has hurt businesses and hurt workers. You know, President Trump will talk about how well the economy is doing and was doing before the pandemic and try to take credit for the economy in that respect, but he's going to try to distance himself from the pandemic affecting the economy and try to say that, it was the governors, because he didn't make any national sweeping decisions to shut down everything. It was the governors who were in control of their own states, whereas Biden's promising he's immediately going to put out an order for masks for 90 days, 3 months, I think is what he said. So I think it's a smart move to put up just businessmen that if the Republicans were watching, they'd have to think about, man, this Trump guy, he felt like he was good for business for a little while because we were looking at the graph of rich people's feelings that is the stock market, but we have to realize that did not translate into jobs, and just bringing up what does the economy really look like right now. Good move on their part, I think. Then they had this lady, this young lady, Barley Diaz, who was a teen activist, who she was looking forward to next year when we get to go back in her scripted line. And she appeared like particularly scripted, but I didn't mind as much because it's a teenager. But it's sending a signal. The undercurrent in what she was saying there was, it is not safe to go back to school right now. I'm looking forward to next year. And so all these people that are thinking, oh, well, if we just, muscle through it, we can be back to regular next month. I think that's, that's what she was trying to talk towards. Like, this problem is not going away. Not at the end of this election, 2 months from now. This is a big problem, this pandemic. And so putting timelines on it like next year, you're just slipping that in there. I felt that was pretty good. Next, there was this guy named Telez, who was like a farmer, talking about soybean tariffs and COVID hurting his farm at the same time. Wasn't aware of soybean tariffs or how they had to do with Trump, but I guess there's a business thing in there that Republicans might look up. I'm not interested in soybean tariffs myself. Then there was Michelle, the school nurse, and she was talking about frequent changes in school planning. And I thought that was a really good thing for them to hit on right now, because the lack of a national plan on the part of Trump, the lack of national leadership, has left schools scrambling as far as, do we open? Do we shut? Do we open? Do we shut? Do we are online, hybrid, in person? What are we doing? So I thought that was good that nurse brought up the frequent changes in the school planning start. Then there was Representative Gwen Moore from Milwaukee, and I think the convention was supposed to be in Milwaukee prior to the pandemic, and I think they added her in there and made sure they put in a good couple seconds of montage of Milwaukee and Wisconsin, so that they don't ignore Wisconsin the way that Hillary did. So I think that was, I think the whole point of them choosing Milwaukee in the first place was, oh shit, we ignored Wisconsin and Hillary lost. So I think that's what went into that. Then there was a Springsteen song, which just made me think, well, there's another star that the Republicans can't get. You know, it's really hard for them to get celebrities to endorse them. You know, it's the same really small pack of people who are brave enough as stars to be labeled Republican, especially in this day and age. Then they had this dude who said he was an ex-Trump voter, saying that Trump has no platform months out, which I think is kind of true, that Trump really runs on himself and his brand image rather than putting out specifics. So I think it's true. Maybe, Republicans looking at it from a different perspective wouldn't think it was true. Then there was some George Floyd family members, and I don't know how George Floyd would have voted, but definitely the family members that were represented on screen were all in for Biden. And it really started the part of the show that was all about the racial divide in our country. Then there was Leon Bridges singing a song called Sweeter, which was in my brain for another 3 hours after the show, because it was kind of, well, it had a catchy hook to it. Then there was this staged discussion with Joe Biden about racial equality with leaders in racial justice from all across the country. The president of the NAACP was up on the screen. But there was a whole bunch of screens and a whole bunch of people talking to him on a stage where he's a white guy and he's getting informed by all these people who were not white on, racial issues. And even edited, I can tell that Joe Biden isn't as sharp as he used to be. I remember him in vice presidential debates really shining, and just a decade later, it's like, ooh, man, he's kind of getting old. We got a choice between an old guy and an old guy this year. I think it was a good presentation of race as a priority for the party, this whole stage discussion. But really, I left it thinking, wow, what would we have seen if there was a live show and Biden actually had to make a speech? I know that there are debates coming up. These debates, there's 3 of them, plus the vice presidential debate makes a 4th. And I'm like, who's going to do better there? I feel like Biden has the good points on his side, but Trump's wit is a little bit more together as far as his ability to be hypnotic and commanding and have a presence. I mean, he's kind of still got it, and Biden's slipping in that respect. I mean, he's getting in the polls, but he's slipping as far as his quick wit. So we'll have to see those debates. Then there was Representative James Clyburn, who spoke live, which was like the flub of the stutter start of it was just the only way that I knew it was live, because the rest of the talks could have been live. They're little 1-minute stump speeches, and they could have been live. I wouldn't have known the difference, except for the botched start of Representative Clyburn's appearance. Then there was Governor Andrew Cuomo, who I feel looks kind of presidential, as far as the future. I'm saying he's probably going to run 1 year in the future. Then there was this lady named Kristen Er Cuisa, and she's this woman who her father died, and she said his only pre-existing condition was trusting Donald Trump, as far as her father dying of COVID. And I was like, well, I'm looking at these images, and I'm an overweight guy. I'm just saying, dude was 65 and overweight. He had 2 pre-existing conditions right there. But I get the zinger, and she said that her father would have voted against Trump this time. He voted for Trump the last time, and her father was upset that he had voted for him in one of his final words. And I was like, politicizing death, like on a personal human level. I was like, we're right up close to the edge where I feel uneasy about it, Great that they gave her a national platform to speak about her father, but, the zinger was worth it, I guess. Believing in Trump is a pre-existing condition. Then there was a panel of healthcare workers, which personally, it triggered me because I've had clients who died in the past year. Maybe not from COVID-19, but just as a healthcare worker myself, I had some, and it hurts. Some of my former coworkers have gotten COVID-19, and it didn't really hit any of them hard, but I was worried about them. There was a montage about concerns about the post office, which it aligns really well with their voting access platform. So I'm wondering about the recent spate of news on that, if it's not coordinated as part of an effort to oust Trump, this extra eyes on the post office and on his actions against mail-in ballots and whatnot. He appointed a crappy person to be the Postmaster General, that's for sure. And just like every other one of his appointments, it seems like he's appointing the person that is best suited to just tear it apart, or will be just inept as all get out. Like Betsy DeVos being the Secretary of Education, or look at housing and urban development. That was just a cluster right there. So yeah, I wonder why they're just particularly focusing on that. It's an issue that it ties in with racism. There's an intersectionality to the whole platform. They're running on racism. The voter access stuff is racist. That sort of thing. Then they had this lady, Maggie Rogers, singing her song "Back in My Body." I'm not sure what it had to do with the election, but she reminded me of, like, what if Eddie Vedder had a sex change and was singing? Because the way that her voice carried on after she had sang the words, it was like, grunge died for a reason. Then Governor Gretchen Whitmer was talking about auto workers, which is a good tie-in to rile up the union workers out there. And then There was a montage of names that we have lost, except for instead of names, it turned into like occupation names. Like we've lost nurse and teacher and social worker and all these other engineers, police officers. All these people died. I'm like, well, it'd be pretty hard to put 160,000 names up there, but maybe put some. I don't know. Like it just turned into a list of jobs. Then there was a bunch of Republicans that they got. It was former New Jersey Governor Whitman, and then Meg Whitman, who was running for governor in California. Both of them Republicans speaking against Trump. Then former Representative Molinari, she was a Republican against Trump. And then they bring out the big guns, John Kasich, who was running against Trump this political season, and he got one delegate in the RNC, which does not give anyone the ability to speak on the stage anyway. But I really do feel like he's doing his party a good service, and I liked his quote, "These are not normal times." And then there was just a montage of other former Republicans. Senator Doug Jones talked about more racial themes. Senator Masto, I think it is. She talked about the post office and voting rights access. Then there was Senator Klobuchar, and then a montage of all the other people who ran against Joe Biden to be the nominee for president, which is good for party unity. Then there was Senator Richmond talking about the economy and racial inclusion, making the economy about race too. It's all interconnected in the Democratic Party. Rail workers from like the train that Joe Biden was riding on for like 30 years, talking about how he kept in touch with them, with the little guy. And I don't know how politically calculating that is, but if it was for like 30 years to just keep in touch with like the person who punched your ticket on the train, it's kind of weird, Senator Bernie Sanders, who wasn't included on the previous montage, he's there, which creates more party unity, but he gave like a converted stump speech and said, Trump bad, which is what his stump speeches became. I kind of zoned out. He was my guy, and I still kind of zoned out on his speech because I'd heard it so many times, pretty much. Then they had a montage of regular people and their values, and then they brought out Michelle Obama. And I will say that the points that I took away from Michelle Obama's speech, first was that Trump can't say Black Lives Matter. A lot of Republicans have been publicly asked to say Black Lives Matter, just like the words, and they won't do it. And then I think that's a good point to stick. That was at the beginning. And then she talked about empathy. Then a lot of focus on children and what children pick up from us, making it about the children. And then more about empathy. And I thought it was a great speech. Almost tearful. I know Rob, one of my friends, he put on Facebook that she was going to make him cry. And then they brought out Billy Porter and Stills of Crosby, Stills and Nash to come out and play a song. And I was watching on MSNBC, so they kind of just cut it off as the song started. And they had Rachel Maddow talking again. And a lot of times throughout my watching, it was Rachel Maddow plastered over Eva Longoria talking, and I was like, this is not MSNBC's show that, you know, to promote their own stars. This is the DNC. So I think maybe next time they need to be a little bit more specific in what it takes to rebroadcast their convention. But, you know, this is supposed to be a one-off. It's supposed to be more live next time. Hopefully, the pandemic is over. Now, those were my takeaways from the DNC Night 1. And I will watch Night 2, and I will make another ramble video for you guys. And leave some questions that you want me to answer for the Night 2 review if you want more of my opinions.